morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you again this beautiful Wednesday morning in downtown Bardstown. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Tim.
Well, we have lots of sunshine out and pretty cool temperatures. It's a beautiful fall. I guess it's fall, isn't it now officially?
Well, I don't know if it's officially or not, but I'd say unofficially. If it's not official, it's unofficial.
It should be.
Yeah.
All right. We have a very special studio guest with us, and this is somebody who's not a stranger to our community, particularly if you're a social media Facebook user. Ginger Derekson is now part of the WBRT radio team, and a colleague now. And welcome, Ginger.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me in here.
Well, you have been, I don't know your entire history as far as media involvement, but you have been a fixture here in Nelson County through your former employer, PLG, for years. So anyway, welcome to the show, and we're kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to meet the WBRT audience, who pretty faithful to those of us who have regular shows here.
So, Jim, we're real happy that we have Ginger. You know, the situation that occurred was outside of hers or mine or anybody locals. But
control, right?
But we're happy. I know that a lot of people have expressed their appreciation that she is back doing the job that she's been doing for our community, and I just want to say that on behalf of our group, the radio station, we're certainly happy, and I do know, like I say, it's been expressed by many that they're glad that we have been able to continue that service, and that's really what it is. We've seen an increase in our presence on social media, if you want to call it Facebook Live, whatever you want to call it, and I'm pretty sure it's a big reason why that's happening. And so I'm going to let her and you guys talk some more. I got to go back there and put out another fire.
Thank you.
But again, we're glad to have you here.
All right.
Thank
Thanks, Rob.
She knows it all anyway.
Thank you.
So, Ginger, is the proper term for you a videographer or a video reporter, or what are you?
I don't know that there's a proper term. Either one of those is fine. I've got reporter, media specialist on my name tag.
Okay.
But any of those, I do. Yeah. Obviously videography, but try to report the news too as best we know about it and can do that, and the local events.
Yeah, now I have to tell you that now, of course, I post stuff from the Nelson County Gazette on the WBRT Facebook page that I have for years now. But it was a very pleasant surprise, I guess, not surprise, but when I pulled up the WBRT Facebook page and saw lots and lots of content videos that you shot on the grounds of the Bourbon Festival, and I think even was it Bardstown Live too?
Yes.
So you were
Cheers to Bardstown.
Cheers to Bardstown. I'm sorry. Yeah, but yeah, you were all over the place.
Yes, that's a big event. It's long, and there's a lot of things going on. So it's trying to find some interesting things. It's one distiller after another pouring bourbon or whiskey, but there are lots of things behind the scenes that are quite interesting. So it's a fun event.
Oh yeah.
Did you get a picture of all of those hundreds and hundreds of people standing in line
Yes, I was on my way to the barrel rolling contest, and I saw the line, and it was already wrapped around Medica.
Oh yeah.
And this was 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And this was the VIP line, and they didn't open until 11.
Oh my gosh.
So I whipped around the block and went and parked and came and interviewed. So
I was astounded. I've never seen that many people lined up.
And last night,
because it wasn't just a single line. It was.
And that was just the VIP. The general admission line was somewhere else. And I talked to one gentleman that said he met somebody there that had been in line since 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And so I asked them, why do you want to get in so early? They said it's the limited edition bottles that they make single barrels, and they make it only for the Bourbon Festival. Once it's gone, and you can't ever buy it again. They don't make that exact thing. You can't create the exact same thing again anyway.
Yeah.
Where the ones that you get in the store, they make hundreds of barrels at a time, so
Right.
they're the same formula, and then you can get basically the same alcohol, same flavor.
I wondered about that. That's that kind of helps explain why they're willing to stand out there in the sun and without any means of support or anything. You didn't have people going up and down the line furnishing them food or drink.
I think the sheriff of the fire department, the police chief or the fire chief said last night that there were 4 people that collapsed from heat stroke.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Because of those standing in line. I think that was Friday, but other than that, there weren't any other problems.
Well, just standing in line itself for me would be a no-no. My leg would go numb in about 15 minutes, and then I would have to go someplace else or end up on the sidewalk.
Well, I'd say you must have a pretty good pair of shoes to do all the trekking you did this weekend.
I have lots of different kinds of shoes, and sometimes I carry extra ones to change shoes, from one to the other. Definitely have an extra pair in the car usually. So,
Right.
I also have a cane chair. It's like a cane, but it opens out into a chair. So I don't need a cane to walk, but I need a chair sometimes to sit. So
I
have
understand
several of those kinds of things that help.
I understand that. I know that during the last election, of course, there were lines at every polling place, and some of the smarter folks brought a camp chair with them, so that they didn't have to stand the whole time they waited. So that might have been something some of the attendees might have considered, but I really wondered. I wasn't sure what the draw was to get in line so early, because I don't recall having lines like that in the
I haven't
past.
seen that before either, but I haven't been there that early, so I don't know.
Right. Right.
But
Well, Ginger, you, I wanted to get you on here and to talk about your past and things you've done, and because it's interesting, because so many people, we're all the product of our experiences, and to me it's fascinating how, especially when you look back on your life, how you things kind of meander.
right.
And you make a decision, and of course, the decision, 20 years ago, I started the Nelson County Gazette, and that was just an experiment, because I had been a newspaper reporter for years, and I had some health issues pop up, and then I kind of recovered from that enough to be able to do something, and I missed writing and reporting. I missed it so bad, and so I thought, well, I'll just do it on my own terms, which was why I started the Gazette. If it was too much for me, I'd scale back, whatever. Anyway, that experiment's lasted 20 years. So it keeps, my wife will tell you, it keeps me out of the bars. Except Bourbon Festival weekend. No. But anyway, it's been an interesting experience, and I'm sure that, it's just interesting how life's twists and turns, and you end up where places you may have never thought you would wind up. But anyway, you in addition, and now how long were you with PLG?
About 5 years.
Okay. I didn't remember, but you certainly made your presence known on their social media too.
Thank you.
And I know that was a big plus, just to see what was going on, because I know that I think PLG put advertisements, the video advertisements that they inserted on the cable system. So
Amanda Mattingly did those. She, along with the owner of the business, designed them. Like some of the fun ones were Busics. They did little plays and stuff.
Yeah.
They did the E.T. Phone Home, and they did about the hurricanes or tornadoes when we were expecting those.
Yeah.
And they did about the Lion King, not Lion King, the Tiger, what is that? now forgotten.
Well,
Anyway, a play on that,
Right.
kind of a spoof on different things.
well, it seemed like just about every summer that they would incorporate some theme of the show, the changing show from the
Right.
drama using their costumes. So that
Yes.
it's always
Yes.
fun. They were always fun.
Yes, always they did a good job. Yes.
Ginger, how did you get into the business of being a videographer?
Well, it's interesting because that's not my background. My background is I was a CETA work experience director from years and years ago, and then that ended, government ended those programs. And I was also a victim of spouse abuse, and I did a lot of studying and went to counseling, read a lot of books to try to cope with that. Got out of that relationship, and that's a long, long time ago. And then I thought, well, I have all this information, I had to use it somehow. So I went to applied and was a director of a spouse abuse shelter for numerous years. And then that job ended, and I was looking for other jobs, and so I had also had the experience of, I'm very fortunate that my family, there's not any alcoholism, but there's kind of that kind of dysfunction thing that fits there. So I had studied that. So then I started working in drug and alcohol, and was a prevention specialist, and then became the director of a drug and alcohol facility. And then I retired, and I was coasting along whatever in my retirement, and COVID hit. And I want to thank my good friend Judy Cedarholm, who gave me a call in the middle of COVID and said, Ginger, you need to call this person. You need this job. It'll get you out of the house and you'll get something to do, you know. So I called John White and talked with him, and we had an interview. And I just told him at the time, I said, I've won awards and contests on my photography, but for the video, other than my grandson's birthday party, I don't have any experience much, you know. And so, not sure, I think they were desperate for somebody, but anyway, I was real fortunate to get that. And we were in the middle of COVID, so there wasn't a lot of events going on. I remember a couple of times, I worked an hour and a half a week because there was nothing going on. And then when things started picking up, then I went, you know, got more work then. So at the time, we were under a different owner, under Landmark, and I was told we're fluff. We do craft shows and school events, you know, we're not news. And that was their philosophy at the time. Then when the stations were sold, then that changed, and then we ended up covering more media, more you know, court trials and more serious kinds of things. So I remember one time I was giving one of our reporters the standard reporters a ride home from an event, and there was a car accident, and I said, oh, I know how to get around that. And he goes, no, I need to go to that. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that, maybe I do too. And I had to call my boss to say, is this something you want me to cover? And he said, yeah. So but then now, you know, we obviously do those kind of things, but
So you had
it took
on the
me
job training.
Yeah, on the job training, yes. So
Well, you know, I understand that, you know, really there's so much fluff on social media that it's good to see the news operation with news, you know. And I think that's a huge plus, I think, for WBRT to have you now on staff. I mean, I've been recording meetings for years, but you live stream them.
yes.
So they're available, you know, available then. I know I asked you about the fiscal court meeting, and I did get that uploaded to YouTube. Downloaded your video and uploaded it.
Good.
And of course gave you
Yeah.
credit.
Thank you, appreciate that, yeah.
The
Yeah, there's a real advantage of shooting it live. You know, sometimes people, one of the advantages of having the event in its entirety is that, like if it's a high school, we do or before I did the vocational school, technical schools, graduations, which is actually mornings a week long. And a lot of times maybe the grandparent or the parent had to work, or they couldn't get out, or they lived in another state and they couldn't come see their family member get their awards and whatever, so that then they get to do that. So there's been a lot of people who thanked me for covering things because they wouldn't have got to see it. And even in the big events, the big news is they just post pieces of it on the news. They can't do the whole thing.
Right.
So I don't know how the court is. The court used to let us video its entirety. There was lots of rules, and we followed all the rules. But then with the Haupt trial, they stopped any kind of recording devices in the courtroom.
Right.
So we don't have that. So I don't know how they're going to do it with other cases, whether Judge Sims is going to, or the judges are going to stick with that, or whether they're going to go back to letting certain ones video or not.
Well, I mean, my gut feeling is that they'll probably go back, maybe case by case, but there was no, I don't think there's been another trial that has generated. Of course, hearing Judge Sims talk about the avalanche of media requests and all that, so I think I don't know that there's going to be another trial that size or that popular or public.
Right, with the magnitude of following and stuff from all over the world, really.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Ginger, I know you were down there some days too. And of course, I'm down there as a reporter for the Nelson County Gazette and WBRT, and I look around, and almost without exception, I was old enough to be the other media reporter's father. I mean, these were a younger crowd. But anyway, what was funny to me, interesting, I guess, because of the judge's order banning any recording, any media, no electronic devices. I went back to the old pad and paper.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I started with. I eventually got a tape recorder when I needed to tape something. But anyway, all these folks who have been using, recording devices all their career, now they've got to go back to pen and paper for their reporting. So anyway, that was
for the first time.
Yeah.
With them being younger. Yeah.
Now the Louisville station, several Louisville stations had multiple reporters there, and they would swap out. At the breaks. Right. A reporter would at the break they'd swap, and then that one would go right up what they had observed during that period in the courtroom. So they had a pretty good plan set up. So anyway, I hadn't been in a murder trial for years. We had one in Oldham County that wasn't nearly as publicized as this. And the security was pretty incredible down there too, I think.
Yes, definitely. I wish I got around to posting it, but I actually drew the courthouse, and I drew in where all the officers were, and there were one at each door. There were two in front of one in front of the prosecutor, one in front of the defendant, and then there were two at each of the other exits too. It was quite fascinating to see where everything was.
And every time they took a break, you noticed that the AOC crew would kind of tighten up around the defense table.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a very tight security, which, I guess that's what the situation called for.
Well, I would think they'd, given the amount of publicity and the fact that this county's been living with that for the last 10 years. I mean, the Ballard family did not let that case die. They did not let it, they did not let it get out of the public attention. So if there is anybody living in Bardstown, in Nelson County, who didn't know about it, they must have been under a rock or in a coma or something.
Or they just moved here in the last 6 months.
But I mean, so the judge they were right to move that out of the county, and they were right to have all that security.
Absolutely. Well, Ginger, going through the metal detector going in, I would have a lot of that stuff just stuffed in my pockets, and I finally had a Walmart bag in my car, and I put all my stuff so I wouldn't have to empty my pockets every time I left.
Yes.
Yeah.
I put it in a Walmart bag and just ran it through the scanner, and I had nothing on me, no phone.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got to, after more than a week down there, and then of course about almost a week for the Lawson trial. You get to feel like you get to know the bailiffs, you know.
Yeah, I
But
imagine.
they were all friendly, and they did a good job.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be 2 days in the Lawson trial, and then PLG ended, so I didn't have any media credentials. And I had talked with Roth early on, but when you work part-time like this, it's really hard to take a vacation, because you might have 2 events in the week, but you can't take 10 days off at once. So
Right.
I had to tell him I wanted a month and a half, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, because so I went to 10 days in Florida, and then I went to Iowa with my sister, Idaho and Nevada, and we dug turquoise and all kinds of cool stuff. And then I took my son, daughter-in-law, and grandson to Pigeon Forge for another week. So I traveled pretty much that whole month, and watching the trial every step, you know, on media, and following all the people who was reporting. But so I looked forward to that for years too, and hated missing it, but it was something that I needed to do before I got here. So
Now, I don't know, but I know for the Houck trial, and I never was really sure if these were security or media drones, but there was always drones in the air over the courthouse.
yeah, I don't know either. Yeah,
But I was assuming,
Yeah.
I initially thought they might be media, but they were directly over the courthouse. You know, and I thought, well, if they weren't security, if they were media, they'd be getting shots, video from around the area.
when the last FBI that was here that dug up the house that was Brooks Houck's grandmother's house, which she'd passed away and someone else owned it. But
Yeah.
I knew that the media would be bombarded at the front, so I went around the back of the property, and there was a couple other media there, and they said, you know, these people own that land. So we went up and asked, you know, can we go there? So we went in the back side. So I got video between some thorn bushes of them actually digging it up, and then went around and heard. Then the sheriff gave a presentation and said that the FBI said if you have a drone, you can film whatever you want. The rule to begin with was no shirts with FBI on it. Don't film that. Don't film any license plates or any of the faces.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so we were just filming. I was filming equipment that was digging. You know. And so I have a drone. It's little, and I'm not that good at it. But so I went and looked it up. But I have to have a license. It's not big enough to require a license, but you have to have a license to publish it on a media or sell or something. So I've looked into that. I'm going to do that now and see. But at the time, I thought, well, that would be something. They had one out there, I think, one of the medias. But that would be something.
Yeah, of course, it was kind of the wild, wild west when drones first became a thing. You know, no licensing or anything. But I know in some instances they have jammers that will prevent a drone from operating in certain areas if they want to make it a drone free or
And the
area.
penalty's pretty stiff if you go in an area you're not supposed to. You know, I mean, it's very stiff, even jail time. So as well as confiscate your drone and fines, I think. So,
Well, Ginger, what's been your best memory from your media experiences? Well, going back, you know, back to the PLG as well.
probably the most exciting was when the military tank was being transported on a 18-wheeler, and it turned over, and it was on. I actually had the week before I'd been in Georgia, and I own a house in Louisville, and my neighbor called me and said, "You've got a tree on your house." And so I was actually up there cutting. It didn't do any damage, thank goodness, but I was up there with family cutting the tree when the accident happened. So we get back that evening, and I'm thinking, well, I'll go down and take a picture of the road because it's probably cleared out, and let everybody know that the road's clear. And I go down there, and it's not, and there's no way it's going to be anytime soon. And there was a lot of drama because the tank weighed 22 tons.
Yeah.
62 tons. I said that backwards. And nobody around here had done anything like that. Ellis is our local, mover of things, and he had the equipment to move that in 2 pieces of equipment, but then somebody's like, well, it's military, so they called Fort Knox, and so Fort Knox said, yeah, we'll come do it. Well, it belonged to Texas, so Texas said, you're not touching it, it belongs to us. We'll figure out what we want to do. So they ended up calling the train company.
The railroad guys.
Yeah, and because they're used to moving that kind of big equipment,
Right.
and so that was pretty fascinating. I talked at length with the driver and his wife, who's also a driver. They didn't want to be interviewed, but the situation was that they had spotters both front and back, and they had stopped the traffic. They were going south on Boston Road,
Right.
going down the hill by Vidito's tree, down where it used to be Keeling's store.
Right.
And there was a semi coming at them, was a semi, a white car, and a bunch of other vehicles, and they had them all stopped. And so the semi with the tank on it is coming down the hill, and the white car behind the other semi decides it's not going to wait and comes running up towards the one moving the tank. And so he moved over as far as he could and slid off the asphalt, and that flipped it. And that type of piece of equipment is designed to brake, and so the cab was fine, they were okay. But it embedded that in the ground all the way up, like the turret all the way up to the rails.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it took them, I think it happened maybe around in the morning on Sunday, and it was Monday morning before it was all moved. Ellis moved the semi off of it. His wrecker moved the semi off of the tank,
Right.
and then the tank. And I stood there behind the guardrail, and behind me was a drop-off. I could not have taken one step back. And then there was the tank straight across the road with two wreckers on each side, or equipment. They're not typical wreckers, and they were pulling it over, and you could hear it screeching and stuff, and when it fell. And at one point, the guys came up and looked at this rail and said, do we move it or tear it up? Like if they run into it, And so that was probably the most exciting, one that with the different. And the reason they were on Boston Road is at the time there was a restriction that a vehicle that wide could not be on the bluegrass past the New Haven exit. So they should have gone, they were going to Texas from up north somewhere, Michigan, I think, and they would have run on the bluegrass, but there was that restriction. They had to get off because they were too wide for the bluegrass, so that was their only choice. So it was
Too wide for the bluegrass, but not too wide for Boston Road.
Because there was the restriction, so.
That's a little unbelievable.
Yeah, I talked to the driver the week later, and they said they were coming through with another run, and they moved the restrictions for them. They waived the restrictions so they wouldn't have to do that. So the driver did a great job, did everything he was supposed to do, saved lives and that stuff. So it's.
Well, did they load the tank back up on the?
Yes,
semi?
they sent another semi, and then the wife. Who was his passenger, but she's a driver too. She took the cab on to the next run, and then when they got there with another truck, they loaded it on the other truck, and then he took it on to Texas. So,
well, I guess it gave the new bridges at the Nelson County line a little workout. That 62-ton tank go over.
Yes. That was interesting too when the bridges were closed, and there is a detour through there, ice loop, but it is one lane. A lot of people were taking it with big trucks not semis, but trucks that probably shouldn't have. It clearly said local only.
Right.
So, and then at one point the water came up on Bellwood Road.
Yeah.
So you're stuck. You really couldn't go either way at that until the water receded. So, the other one would have been the murder trial, the Martin murder trial, Wimsett, who was convicted and and that one we were allowed to film. We had 46 hours of filming. It was 5 days, and that was quite a drama. That was the first courtroom thing I've done, much more than a preliminary hearing.
Right.
So that one was interesting, and I always try to, and I know WBRT and everybody does too, is to be neutral, and film with respect and that sort of thing. When you're filming out in public, you can film whatever you see. If a person's out in public, they don't have reasonable assumption that they're not going to be filmed, so you legally can do that. But we always requested, we had several photos of people close up that were crying. And so we would ask them, are you okay with if we post this? And that's the kind of the way I live, is doing that, as respect. Same thing with accidents, cover those to help the public know, don't go this way because there's an accident, but not make sure I don't film any bodies or people being put in an ambulance or anything like that. So actually, first thing I did for WBRT was I had a message from a friend that the car hit the courthouse, and I was like, oh, I gotta go cover that. And I was like, I'm technically not working for anybody yet, even though we agreed, but it wasn't no paperwork signed, so I came up here and got the photos anyway, and we're very careful not to take pictures where I even zoomed in to make sure that the model of the car was not clear in the photo, and that the police removed the license plate as soon as they got there. So that was, I think respectful to them because they knew it was there.
Right.
So.
Well, it sounds like you've always had a nose for news.
Or I'm nosy, or one or the other. I think trying to figure out the why and what's behind and what people think and why people do what they do, that kind of thing has always been interesting to me. My education is in psychology. I have a master's in community development and a bachelor's in psychology, and I was fortunate enough to get to take a 8-week field placement that was like you would do for a PhD. They were trying to make bachelor level psychologists employable, but insurance still wouldn't cover it, even with the extra education. But it was something that only 3 universities in the country did it, and then it was short-lived, so it was a great experience. And I had to actually work in a clinic for 8 weeks as part of my class, so that was really fascinating.
Well, you bring an interesting background to
Thank you.
to the job. Now, when I was at Western, my degree, and it shows my age, was in print journalism, because they actually had a different degree for if you were going to work for newspapers. And my second major was in government, political science, and that's worked out well. But the psychology and sociology were I was always big fans of those classes. But I was a non-traditional student back then. I was trying to get done in 4 years. So it was like, I'm not taking any class that I don't need to take. So there were a few electives I got to take that were really, really kind of made me want to take some more, to learn more about various topics. But, it was always interesting at the College Heights Herald at Western, in the student paper. Several semesters I was an editor, but not top editor. It was kind of tradition that the top editor would take a caseload or a workload of classes like billiards, table tennis or whatever, classes that were kind of not real academically demanding, because even though it was only a twice a week student paper, it was still really demanding. So, but anyway, I'd never rose to that level, and I didn't have time. I wanted to get done. You know?
Yes, the other interesting job I've had that I didn't mention is I worked in the prison. I taught classes for Lee College in Eddyville and North Point.
Really?
And that was really fascinating, and the psychology really helped. And when you teach inmates, they had to apply, they had to be what they called short, have only 3 more years to serve. And of course in Eddyville, there's a lot of them, they're there for murder. So they had to want to take the class. And I also taught at Sullivan in Fort Knox. And in Fort Knox, people have 2 jobs, and they're either the spouse of the military or they're military, and they have a lot of demands and kids and that stuff. In the prisons, they didn't have anything else to do, so I had to really be on top of everything, because they read every word and did every bit of homework. So it was, I think the lowest grade I had on there was a B, because they were really, really on top of it. You couldn't just skim of it or catch up tomorrow, whatever.
All right.
Well, I would think your degree in psychology, that would make you being able to do a better job in almost anything you went into.
Sometimes, yes.
Being able to understand people and where they're coming from.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes I wonder, how do people even cope with everyday life without that? Because a lot of it I use, in my everyday life.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times just people have to learn how to phrase things so that you elicit the type of reaction you want.
Right.
In other words, you want somebody to cooperate with you. You don't attack them.
Right.
You use other means of communication so they don't feel threatened and have to strike back while you're trying to reach an agreement on something. So it's just sounds basic, but it isn't. It doesn't always work that way.
And like you said, one word can set somebody off, and then you've got to backtrack and stuff.
Well, as you all we started this conversation out about is that you are the sum total of your what's happened to you in your life and the things that are around you, and so is everybody else.
And I don't know if it was experience or what, but I have a sense sometime one day, and I was escorted by a guard the whole time that I was there, and in both the prisons, and we step out of the building at North Point, and I just stopped. It was like you could feel it in the air. I said, something's not right. And the guard all of a sudden paid attention, and he realized that there were clusters of people sitting on picnic tables that were racially divided. He said, that doesn't happen here. Normally there's something going on. And it was like, the air was thick or something, so some of that kind of thing, being aware of when to be worried and when not to be too, it's when you're working everywhere really in life.
I visited Eddyville prison. It was back in 1993, I think, but part of Leadership Kentucky.
Yes.
I was a part of the Leadership Kentucky class.
That's a great program.
It is a great program, but one of the things we did was to go to Eddyville, and we got to see the electric chair, and but just passing by and seeing people in these cells, it was a very frightening experience. I mean, it really was, because you just you were talking about an atmosphere a while ago. Right. I mean, it was just really loaded, and you'd think some of these people just don't have anything left to lose. So it's kind of scary.
All right, Ginger, we need to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Bradford Brooks, Jim and Margie, and our very special guest, Ginger Derekson, who is a newcomer to the WBRT team, but not a newcomer to local media and events. And you've seen her work all over Facebook. And now you'll see it on the WBRT Facebook page. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford Brooks, Jim Brooks, Margie Bradford, and a very special studio guest this morning, Ginger Derekson. And if that name sounds familiar, if you look at the WBRT Facebook page, you'll see Ginger's video work everywhere. And she live streams city council, fiscal court meetings. Are there other meetings? I'm not.
We do the ribbon cuttings for the chamber. Mm-hmm. And any public things. We do the festivals, Nelson County Fair. We'll be doing the Iron Horse for New Haven, and pretty much other events that happen in the community that are, we can't be in two places at once. So sometimes if there's a conflict or whatever, we can't do that. And I work real hard at answering people's questions. If they ask a question when we're live, I'm just one person, and technically you could answer a question during a live, but that sort of takes away with what's going on, so I don't. But I will go back afterwards, and if I don't know the answer, I'll go after whatever expert, would be the one that would know the answer. And then, so you might not get your answer right away, but I will try to either answer it or tell you I don't know, one or the other, and we try to be real respectful of people's feelings and everything. And so I sort of hope that everybody else that makes comments does the same. And if, everybody has an opinion, and if their opinion is different than the speaker, then that's fine. But if they're abusive or inappropriate, we will block that and remove it, and remove the comment. And if the person continues, of course, we would block that, because that's not appropriate. And all kinds of people are looking at the videos, ages and everything, so we want to be conscientious about that.
Sure. Yeah, when I started shooting video, it seemed like I had an uptick in people with an interest in, where's it going to show up? So I'm like, well, and some people will ask, I ask you don't film my face or whatever. Right. And I generally try to, and that, like you said, if you're in a public place, you have no expectation of privacy. But I try to avoid filming kids, especially if somebody asks.
Right, definitely. And if I'm filming live an event like Cheers to Bardstown, so I'm live and I'm moving my camera and myself around the event, when I walk up to a person, I'll say, I'm from WBRT and we're live on Facebook. And if they go, oh no, don't film me, then I'll back off or switch it over. Funniest story was one of the things that I filmed was a big black Cadillac a couple of years ago at the farmer's market during one of the big events. And there was this gentleman who was out there dancing. There was lots of people dancing, kids or whatever. I'm stationary and filming the whole thing. And he's, very flamboyant and very, great to be on there, and dancing with everybody and being really sociable. And so a few minutes later, he comes over to me right in the face of the camera and says, oh, don't record me. I'm like, and he was a bit inebriated too. So I said, I will try to avoid you, but we're live, so it's like, we're what we are. So you can't. And sometimes people, you'll tell them it's live and they're like, oh, I said I flubbed up, or I couldn't think of something. You can edit that out, right? I'm like, no, it's live. It's already been out there,
Yeah.
So if I'm interviewing somebody and they seem really nervous, then if it's an interview, it's not an event going on, I'll say I could film it for you, and then if you don't like it, we can do it again if you don't feel comfortable going live. So we do offer that if somebody is uncomfortable. But
well, Ginger, I know that now some time back I've tried live streaming from time to time, and you seem to have a much better knack at it than I do, as far as keeping, you have to keep that signal going to social media, to Facebook. And it was more frustrating for me than helpful, because you and I both, our goals to record the whole event, and not have sections drop out, which sometimes happens, as we saw last night.
Right, yeah, in city council meetings, and I'd never had this happen before. It froze up, and I was worried that it was my equipment, but I don't think it was. And so if I get kicked off of live, then I'll record it and then put the recording on for the rest of the meeting or the event. Well, unfortunately, one of the problems is New Haven. When there's that many people in an event, you can't get out at all. I mean, I might even get 2 seconds on. So I'll try it. Or if I can get on somebody's signal. Like I did an event at the fire department, and they have a really good signal, so I can get on their Wi-Fi.
Right.
But in New Haven, I can. They've welcomed me to use the city's signal, but I'm usually not close enough to City Hall when I'm filming everything. So, like the Iron Horse, that will probably be videos that then I add up later. But sometimes you just can't help it. It's the way. The more people that are out there, the more likely that is to happen too.
Right. And now I know for like the Bourbon Festival, the cell phone carriers will bring in some temporary equipment to provide more bandwidth, because you've got how many thousand people in a 3 or 4 or 5 block area, and they're all wanting to get on their phone. Right,
and they do a good job there. I've never had an issue filming at the Bourbon Festival. So.
Right. Well, anyway, I appreciate all the work you've done, and I will tell you, your video from the last fiscal court meeting, I was surprised how well your microphone you have picked up even people over at the podium away from the away from the microphone, how well that did.
I did a lot of research. My phone works really well, and if you zoom in close to a person, it picks it up even better, even if you're far away. But with physical court, when people are talking, some of them are behind me in the back row,
Right.
and some of them, so we had some people saying that they were having trouble hearing some of it. So I did a lot of research, and what I have is a Yeti, and I thought I had it on my kitchen table, and I was practicing, figuring out the dials and where people would stand and talking to it.
Right.
And my grandson came over, and he said, "Oh, my grandma's got a Yeti." She was impressed. So I was like, I guess I got the right one. So, but it picks up in all different, you can set it where it just gets the person in front of you, or you can get it all the people around. So
Now, for the fiscal court, was it fiscal? I guess it was the last meeting I went to. I have a shotgun mic that I've used forever, and it's like this long. And so when you put it on now when it had like a consumer grade video camera, there was more to hang it on, but then you've got a cell phone in a bracket,
right,
and a little bitty mount up top, and you've got a 18-inch microphone sticking out, and makes everything kind of wobbly. Anyway, I bought a different shotgun mic, and I was really it's not. It doesn't have a battery, so it's powered through the phone.
through your phone.
And I was really thinking this. My expectations were low on this, because I'm like, well, because it's a good quality shotgun mic can be expensive, especially one to work with a cell phone or
Right.
iPhone. So, but anyway, it worked reasonably well, and got the audio, captured all the audio, because sometimes some of our elected officials don't speak very loudly,
Right,
and and it can be a challenge.
right. I wish the Yeti was Bluetooth, but I even researched that, and they don't make a Bluetooth one because I have the cord I have to deal with
Right.
to set
right.
the microphone
That's kind
up
of a pain.
front. So, but it also then goes directly into the phone. So
Now, I'm just curious, and this is just for my, what kind of phone do you use? For your
I have
recording?
a Samsung Galaxy 24 Ultra.
Okay.
And I had the first one that I had that was really good was a Note, Samsung Galaxy 20 Note. And both of those are good for the pictures as well as the video.
Right.
In fact, when they first came out, professional photographers were using them for their backup for weddings, in case their camera went bad. When I first started, we had one of those great big cameras, carry on
remember
your
that.
shoulder
Yeah.
with one of those big fuzzy mics,
Yeah.
and then I would film it and take it back, and then Matt Gordon, which I thank too for all his help, would edit it and then put it online, and then after we changed and everything, it malfunctioned and they didn't have a backup. So I said, my phone is pretty good, let's try that. And so then Amanda said, let's just go live, and that's been great, ever since. It did really well.
Well, I will tell you, your phone does a good job,
Yeah.
and I think that now I've got an older iPhone, 8 Plus, and I shoot a lot of video. I've got a car-related YouTube channel, and I shoot lots of video, and it works really well. But I was never real happy with the shotgun mic using it with that big shotgun mic with a small phone. So, but anyway, what I've got now is fine, I think.
One of the tricks is that people don't know is that you have the camera that faces out that you're
Yeah.
filming, then you have a facing camera you. So if you are enlarging or getting close, zooming in, you have to use two fingers to do that.
Right.
If one finger comes up off the screen, it will flip it around, and then you've got your nose hairs. I learned that the hard way, and so I've gone to 6 experts, and they say you cannot turn that camera off. So I have a clip I usually put over it to cover it up.
Okay.
And I've used a Band-Aid, I've used tape, masking tape, I've used gum when I've got desperate, and you'll see what I'm talking about if anybody looks at the barrel rolling that I did Saturday, because I had dropped it. The clip fell off and it was raining. raining that day or whatever, I didn't find it. And it actually, there's 2 shots of me, that flipped around when I do that. And if I'm watching where I'm filming, sometimes I don't notice it necessarily, but, and you're usually concentrating, so it's not the best look of yourself either,
Right.
but that's something if, kids or somebody's trying to do live, cover that one up, and then it lets you not have that problem.
Now, now on my iPhone, I can't switch the cameras unless I go out of video recording mode.
Oh, okay.
Then I
But
can
this
switch.
one, you just click it and it flips it. Or there's a button you can click and it'll flip it over too, like in your camera.
Well,
But it'll do it right in the middle.
the problem I have, of course, we're talking tech here.
Yeah.
The problem I have with zooming is that when you put your fingers, it'll shake the camera.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and then
Yeah.
the more you zoom in, the more
Yeah.
subject it is to
Yeah.
vibration. So anyway, we'll talk tech later. We're just about out of time.
Well, I wanted to thank some friends and family who let me know, and in the public who let me know something's going on, because sometimes I'm not aware of an event. So feel free to text me if you click on my name on any of my posts. That will send you to my private page, and you can private message me there, or you can contact the station, or you can send a private message to the Facebook for WBRT, the one,
Right.
if something's going on. We'll try to answer all those. If it's for profit, a business, then, we want you to buy some advertising. So some of those we can't really cover the event, but we'll look at it and answer whether we can or not.
All right. Well, thank you much, Ginger and Margie.
Thank you.
you. That'll do it for Bradford
Thank you
Brooks. Margie and I will be back next Wednesday. So have a great week. Until then, have a great week, everybody.